Hey, welcome to Fuddlife, where we like wood and steel guns and fishing in john boats.
Hey, welcome back everybody. In today's video, we're going to have a look at this Arisaka carbine. I picked this up the other day from my local gun shop, H&H Guns here in Warrenton, Missouri. And I saw it on their Facebook page, and I called them up right away, and they held it back for me. And went in after work and negotiated a deal, and here it is. Uh, I had to trade another firearm for it, and I really didn't want to do that, but I made a deal with the family of the fella in my gun club that passed away, and I bought 4 rifles from that family, and that's got me tapped for the year. I won't be making any more purchases, so from here on out, if I find something cool, I got to trade for it. I got no more money to buy guns. So let's have a quick look at it, get some close-ups of it, and I'm going to disassemble this thing and clean it and probably conserve it. So this is the first Arisaka I've had. I've looked at them for years. I just either didn't have the money or the rifle wasn't in the kind of condition I was looking for. This one here seems to be everything I'm looking for. It's a carbine. It's fairly, the carbines are fairly rare. It has the mum mostly intact. There's one strike through it. I was told that in World War II, after World War II, when they were taking these out of the country, the officers were able to dictate how the mum was defaced, I guess. I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, this one has like a cut through the mum. It's not awful. Overall, the condition isn't terrible. One thing that's pretty odd is that the floor plate here has been polished. Well, the bluing's gone. It's kind of got a rusty hue to it. Somebody ground off the bluing for some reason. I don't know whether they did that because they liked the way it looked or not. But and then back here, butt plate has had the same treatment done to it. So I'm going to go ahead and conserve all that stuff too and see how it looks at the end. Pretty clean on the inside. From what I can tell so far, it's an all numbers matching gun. You get down here and you can see the serial number. It's a pretty low serial number, and then that arsenal mark there is the Naga Arsenal or Naga manufacturing plant in Japan. So this one wasn't built in Korea. This was built, according to the information that I found, this was built between World War I and World War II. Probably did some time in China. The Japanese fought in China for years before they entered World War II, or before they bombed the United States in Pearl Harbor. There's another look at the mum and the Japanese characters on the receiver. This one's missing the dust cover. I'll probably have to get a repop one because I'm not paying $200 for a piece of sheet metal. There's a 507 on the bolt. So far so good. Looks like all numbers matching. We'll see if there's anything else under the stock. There's the serial number there again on the site. There's one place that concerns me pretty good. That looks like a nasty crack there on the wrist. But the gun feels solid. I can't see, doesn't seem to be broken through. I can't flex that crack open any. We get the action out of the stock, I'll try to flex it some more and see how I'm going to go about repairing it, or if I even need to repair it. I'm not sure yet. It may just be on the surface. So in my travels, I've only run across the carbine Type 38 a few times at gun shows and whatnot. I've always thought they were cool, and they're the more rare variant, but usually they're beat to death. When these were brought back after World War II, the people didn't really respect them. That they were the gun of the enemy. A lot of them were chopped up and made into sporters or just abused. This one isn't bad. It has its marks from use in combat. I've already taken the stock off. I did that as soon as I got it. I always do that. I'm kind of ate up that way. I got to see what makes them tick. But these never saw long-term storage like a lot of the Milsurp rifles that you get. This one came straight from combat to being brought home by the GI that brought it home. So there's not any, typically not any cosmoline or anything like that inside of them, and this one it's no exception. It's pretty clean on the inside. But I want to get all the metal parts off of it, and I'm going to go ahead and boil that stuff in water to conserve it. I seen a video or a series of videos by Mark Novak on Anvil Gunsmithing, where he takes these actions out of the stock and boils them in water to take red active rust and convert it into a blue, or a ferroferric oxide, I believe he calls it. But the process works well, and it floats out any kind of oil or gack that's in the gun. Whenever you take it out of the hot water and dry it, soak it in kerosene to set the finish and to drive all the water out of the metal that you can't get off of it. Ideally, you want to get every little bit of metal off of the thing and disassemble it down as far as you can without taking out stake screws or staked pins or anything like that. The idea is to get as much metal exposed to hot water as possible to convert that red active rust into a black oxide rust. So I'm going to go ahead and take all the screws out, disassemble the thing, probably do that in fast motion. So there are a million videos on taking these things apart. There's a bunch of videos on the history. In fact, CNR Arsenal is where I got the information that I told you earlier. I don't have the budget to buy all the resource books and do the research that way. I get my information off of YouTube or the internet or forums, and it's free. It may not be always accurate, but I would rather spend the money on another gun instead of a book. So that's how I roll. All right, so let's dig in. There's no screw on the nose metal. They're not too bad to take apart. Pop this in. The cleaning rod's retained by this spring inside of here, right there. And then after you get the cleaning rod out, you push that spring down, and that guy will come off. And then this one here, just kind of push in the there's two. One on either side. You got to depress both to get that off. And this wood comes right off. Flip it over. Just pull the bolt. That's just like any Mauser. Start pulling the screws out. Not with that, with this. This is somewhat spring loaded here because of the spring under the follower. Yep. We can take that out later. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Pull the screw here. This tang is in 3 pieces. It's quite a bit different than a German-made Mauser. All that. That's somewhat different there. And there's that 507 on the side of the tang. So far, so good on the numbers matching. I don't see a continuation of that crack under there. I don't know if it's just a scab that's been lifted up. The stock does not flex open there. I can't see any way that that's going to affect the integrity. I think I'm just going to leave that. And if it starts opening up or changing, I'll address it then. But for right now, I'm okay with it. The metal looks pretty good. There's some pitting. It's not awful. Nothing terrible. So once I dunk it in the boiling water, I'll be able to card all that off, and that just may go away. That I don't see anything that's concerning. If you can see there's some active red rust in that area. Let's get the light on it. I don't know if that's going to show up on the camera or not, but we want to definitely take care of that before that turns into pits. Shit, without glasses. So that's the spring there. There's the serial number again, 507. There's a 507 there, but the ladder has 400 on it. I don't know if that's off a different gun or that marking, that 400 marking means something else. Give that one more whack. If it doesn't move, it's going to get boiled right on the gun. Move an oomph to her, that spring. Okay. I think I'll just leave that in place. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that in place, leaving that alone. I'll be able to clean around this by sliding it back and forth. Like I said earlier, these never saw storage. They went from combat to being put in a duffel bag and shipped back to this country. So there you go. All of these parts I'll boil in hot water. That off of there. Take that out. The more disassembled you can get it, the better. So take as much of this stuff apart as possible. That's without knocking out staked pins or anything like that. I don't want to create more problems. I guess I'm going to end up re-bluing this, because I know that's not how it's supposed to look. Now we can get the metal off of the stock. There you can see how they put together the stock. I don't know if it shows up on the camera or not, but there's a dovetail here for this piece to slide into this piece. I guess they did that so that if they break the toe or damage this part of the stock, they can just dovetail and put a new one on there. That's pretty brilliant. It's not all separated like you see a lot of times. This crack will be opened up where the wood shrank away. I would guess the glue has held on this one. Yeah, it was time to take this apart. All that rust in there is hell on the wood. It ends up growing around the metal parts and blows out the wood. But this isn't too bad. I've seen much worse. It's not bad at all. This dude here, man, you want to be very careful taking these out. You don't want to blow this wood out around the edges. Man, he's in there. It looks like they just went over the metal and everything with linseed oil or whatever this finish is. Probably linseed oil. Looks like it's just slathered on there. Try tapping on it. Let's see. A little hunk of thin lead here I can use to protect the wood. It's starting to move. Right, looks like it's gonna come out of there without blowing out any of the wood. Too bad. It's a little tiny bit of red rust, but nothing awful. Looks like I got to this in time. So this is pinned from this side to this side. I don't know if that's how easily that's going to come apart. You may end up just leaving that. Give it a little tap and see what happens. Okay. She's moving. Great. Some crusty rusty there. That's gotta go. Carefully pry this dude out. There's a lot of, looks like linseed oil down in there holding that in. Get in here and try to cut some of this linseed oil out of here. Don't want to blow the grain out on this, the end of this dude when I pop it out of here. Try to minimize the amount of repair work you have to go back and do because you've screwed it all up, taking it apart. According to the information I found on CNR Arsenal, Othias says that the production at this plant started in 1923. There's the Arsenal mark. So this gun, being that low of a number, was probably built in 1923, and I bet this spring hasn't been out of here since 1923. But I need to get it because the backside of the other one looked pretty rusty. And that this linseed oil is just hanging on to this dude. Huh. That's interesting. Looks like there's a sleeve here, and the stock has the 507 number right there. Mark 507 also. Looks like, yep, it goes all the way through. Make sure I'm not blowing out any of the wood. It's cutting away. That linseed oil will help with that. That's a bit unusual. Haven't seen that yet. So that guy goes inside of that dude like that. And this stuff definitely needs to be conserved. Now the spring on the front of the rifle has a screw here. It's a bit big. It's a little thinner. I guess this is the best one for the job. There's a bunch of crap in that screw too. Okay, so here's the setup. I'm out in my shed. I got water boiling on the Coleman stove, and here's all the parts. The rifle's disassembled down as far as I can get it. There's the barreled action, cleaning rod. That'll go in here. And the small parts will go in there. So I got it all started now. Propane working. Okay, here we are out in the shed. This is the setup for the conservation, boiling the action in the small parts. So here are all the small parts that I took off both of these pans. Here's the barreled action. The barreled action will go into this gutter full of water, and the small parts will go into this pan that is dedicated to this work only. So I don't eat out of that anymore. So that's it. That's essentially the setup. These parts will get cooked for 45 minutes. Okay, I got the barreled action in the water now. It's boiling pretty good. This is taking a little longer than expected, but I'm going to start dropping these parts in. It's plenty hot. This is basically it. Drop parts in. Let the water do the work. Yeah, and I got this directly from Mark Novak on his channel, which is Anvil Gunsmithing. And I've done it several times with good results. Parts come out with a I sprung a leak in my gutter, just a little leak, but for what I'm doing, it ain't a big deal. I'll be able to add water to this and keep it going. All right, so see you in 45 minutes. Okay, so the barrel's done. Pulled it out. I'm gonna blow it off with the compressed air hose here in a little bit, but you can see where it's turned red there. All of that I'll brush out of there when I card it, and we'll card it and then soak it in kerosene to drive all the excess water out of it. We'll pull these parts out. So on the parts that were polished, where it's turned black there, that's where the rust has converted. So this thing's gonna have those black spots on it now, and I'm gonna have to finish it in some cold blue or something to make it uniform. But that's what I'm talking about, or that's what the idea is to change the red oxide to black oxide. And you can see it happening real well there. All of these parts will get carded, soaked in kerosene, and then oiled. Here's the floor plate. You can see the where the red oxide has turned to black oxide. Okay, so I'm going to spare you all the absolute joy of hearing this thing run. So I'm just going to go ahead and fire it up and blow all the water out of all this stuff. It's still over here steaming good and hot yet. So let me get after that. All right, so here's everything after I took the air hose and blew it all off. You can see there's, it really makes the rust pop. The parts look terrible now, but after I go through and card them off, they'll look much better. And if I find more rust, I may boil them again. We'll see. But I use a carding wheel and some small Dremel tool type wheels. In fact, I'll show you those now. So these are the little brushes I use for the Dremel tool. They're pretty soft, and then they're as soft as a carding brush probably, but they don't seem to damage the metal. And I've used them on 4 or 5 guns now, and it turns out great. And here's the carding wheel I use. It's pretty well wore out. I'm going to have to order one here pretty soon. Alright, for the bigger parts, I use this guy right here. That already looks better, just a few seconds on the wheel. So, I'll show you this area here, and then I'll hit it on the wheel, show you again. Rusty yuck gone. Now that wheel leaves a little brass on there, and I'll clean that up with hoppies or a solvent of some kind. Doesn't take much pressure. I'll go through the small areas with the brushes on the Dremel tool and clean it up. But that's about it. I don't want to bore you to death with this stuff. Alright, so the next step in the process is oil. So I'm going to oil it. I'm going to use Ballistol. This is what I got. You can use whatever you want. You can even use motor oil or detergent-free motor oil. But that I got Ballistol. Stuff works for me, and I'm going to use it. Okay, so here we are at the range. I've put it back together. It's ready to test fire. Haven't shot this rifle yet. I got a target set up at 50 yards. I got precision cartridge. Never heard of these guys before. I think that's going to be it's going to be an ongoing effort with this rifle is finding ammunition. So probably going to get some dies and start reloading for it. So without further ado, let's take a few shots. Man, that trigger is tough. Recoil's pretty mild. Cock on close. The trigger's easily 10 pounds. Start pulling on it and start to think, do I got the safety on? Wow. So hopefully we're putting holes in the target there. Wow, that trigger is stiff. Okay, it's clear. I like the round so far. So here's a good look at it after the conversion. I waxed the stock. I knocked off some of the linseed oil that was slathered on it. Excuse me. I knocked off some of the linseed oil that was slathered on it with some 4/0 steel wool, and then I waxed it. The idea here wasn't to change the appearance or anything. I just wanted to be sure that everything under the stock was rust-free and clean. And now I can stick it in the safe and not worry about it rusting away. So I'm going to run down and check the target real quick, because I don't have enough time to set up my spotting scope and all that good stuff. So there's the first 5 shots at 50 yards. After I get used to the trigger, maybe I can get that group down a little better, but that's not horrible. I'll take it. All right, we'll take a few shots left-handed, see if I can improve on the accuracy any. It's just way more comfortable for me to shoot left-handed. I cannot believe how hard it is to pull that trigger. It is more than 10 pounds for sure. Really got to squeeze it. All right, that's it. Seems like a lot of gas on the shells here. Somewhat of a bulge at the bottom, and I've read about that. These rifles have loose chambers supposedly, and I think that's fairly evident by that bulge on the bottom. Hopefully they'll resize okay. All right, so that's it for this video. I know it was a long one. It took me several days to get it done myself. Thanks for sticking with me, and thanks for watching.